Trying to lose weight? It's time to try Hers. At forhers.com/4u, you can access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss treatments tailored just for you. These include oral medication kits or compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hers, pricing for oral medication kits start at just $69 a month for a 10-month plan when paid in full upfront. No hidden fees, no membership fees. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hers brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. Reach your weight loss goals with help through Hers. Get started at forhers.com/4u to access affordable, doctor-trusted weight loss plans. That's forhers.com/4u, forhers.com/4u. Paid for by Hims and Hers Health. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions at forhers.com apply.
What up, gunfighters? A little bit of bonus extra content I'm going to throw in here because I think it's germane and topical. Men, the last week, and I'm talking about the week of the poor Ukrainian damsel on the train, viciously slain by a thug. I'm talking about the Charlie Kirk killing, murder, talking about the school shooting in Colorado, and who knows how many other acts of violence committed. I don't think you should have needed that, but maybe that jarred some of you into taking your defense in the defense of other people, right? Because you shall love your neighbor as yourself. If you would defend your life from violence, you ought to be ready and prepared to defend other people's lives with the same amount of conviction, gusto, dedication, willingness. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I hope that this past week, if there's any good that can come out of it, it jarred some of the American men out of the lethargy, out of go along to get along, out of being so docile. You were not commanded to be cowardly men. You were commanded to be strong and of good courage. From the book of Joshua, no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and of good courage. For to this people you shall divide an inheritance in the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage? Do not be afraid or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. How about Exodus 15? The Lord is a man of war. How about 2 Samuel? For by you I can run against a troop, by my God I can leap over a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is proven. He is a shield to all who trust in him. For who is God except the Lord, and who is rock except our God? God is my strength and power. He makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He sets me on high places. He teaches my hands to make war, so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. Or how about the words of Jesus? Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. Again, men, you weren't called to be cowards. You were called to be righteous, strong, brave men of God. If that doesn't fit into Alpha Male Podcast, I don't know what does. I've talked before about the importance of good men being armed. But again, maybe this past week has shaken some of you up in a good way. Some conviction, some fortitude, as we might have said in the Marine Corps, some intestinal fortitude. With that, enjoy this content.
Why do we own guns? Why do we own guns? And there are likely many reasons. Many times people own guns because their job requires it of them and they don't even really care about guns. Some people own guns because they like them, because they think they're cool, because they want to collect weird, obscure guns. I guess a better question: why should a man be armed? Why should a man be armed, bear arms? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today on Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about all manner of things the right way, with God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. Today's going to be on that topic. Why do we bear arms? Why do men bear arms? I'm going to put in the bio of today just for some street cred. Not for the regular listeners, not for those who know me or know about me. But as the Bible says, no prophet has honor in his own country. Perhaps there's somebody that you're trying to get through to that you think that they should bear arms. Or you want somebody to understand why you bear arms. And you could talk to them until you're blue in the face, but because the Bible is true, they may not listen to you because you're too close to them. Perhaps the words of a stranger, that being me here, a stranger and a pilgrim on the earth, will help. And I'm here to help. I don't do this podcast to help me. I do this podcast to help you. So let me put in the bio, and then we'll get into the main topic.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan. #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
With that, first and foremost, I am a Christian. I make no apologies for that. It is first and foremost in my life, the greatest of all the commandments. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. I don't apologize for that. I am an alpha male, and as such I follow the ultimate male, the ultimate alpha male, the greatest man that ever lived, Jesus Christ. A little bit about my background. In addition to that, I am a veteran. I've been to war. I served in both the United States Marine Corps in the infantry and the United States Army, both full-time and part-time National Guard. Joined at 17, went to war more than once. I also served in law enforcement. I worked as a police officer in L.A.P.D. doing patrol assignments and more specialized assignments, tracking down fugitives and those kind of jobs. I also served as a private contractor for the U.S. government in an agency I won't specify. By God's grace, He got me through all that alive and in one piece, both physically and mentally, not because I deserved it, not because I was better than those men who didn't, strictly because God chose to have love and mercy on me. In addition to that, I started competition shooting even before I joined the Marine Corps at 17. I've been blessed to win more shooting competitions than I can remember, both rifle and pistol. Mostly pistol are most of my competition and championship wins. But I have also competed in, muzzle loader, archery, shotgun, knife throwing, hatchet throwing. I've been very blessed with those talents, and I try and use them and multiply them. I've done quite a bit of hunting and outdoor, I guess we'd say, survival type activities, hunting and fishing all over this beautiful country. I have been a professional hunter and guide. Not many people today can see they've been a professional exotic and big game hunter of things like bison and exotic animals, but I have been one, and I'm very blessed for that. I've also gone out into the wilderness, by God's grace, with a Bible and a shotgun, and not just survived, but thrived. Also a professional firearms instructor. For the United States Marine Corps, I was an urban warfare and desert warfare instructor under a Mojave Viper. I'm also a F.B.I. certified firearms instructor and have been for a lot of years. I'm certified by some other 3-letter government agency. N.R.A. certified instructor. And I have taught at one of the big-name firearms shooting academies in the country. So I've been very blessed to win many competitions and be a shooting instructor for military, law enforcement, and civilians. I have served as a commander of a tactical team. My current full-time job is as a leader of a tactical team.
primary mission is to stop active shooters in a fairly large metropolitan area. Alright, enough about me and my bio, guys. Let's get into today's topic. Let's talk about men bearing arms. First of all, you should probably know where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with the Word of God. The words of Jesus Christ, red letter words in your Bible, in the Apostle of Luke. How can you argue with that? Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. Those are the words of Christ. Swords are a weapon. Swords are not a butter knife. Swords are not a bread knife. A sword is not a screwdriver. It's not even, like he said, an axe or a hatchet, which they certainly had, which could be used for all manner of tasks. A sword is a weapon. A sword is a weapon. It is an arm. It is bearing arms. Jesus Christ told his disciples, the ones who followed him, who walked with him, to bear arms. And when he said this, they produced swords. They said, here are 2 swords. He says it is enough. And nothing is hidden from Jesus, right? He knows all things. So he obviously knew that his disciples had been bearing arms. And he was okay with that, because he, in fact, told them to bear arms. And he knew that they had arms before that. So why? Because Jesus Christ himself said, let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. A couple of other verses. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Psalm 144. From Psalm 18, it is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer and sets me on high places. He teaches my hands to make war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. A man after God's own heart, David, a man of war, a mighty man of war. Now that's not all David was. David was a multifaceted man. He was a poet, he was a musician, he was a king, he was a warrior. He was a mighty warrior. He slayed beasts, lions and bear, so a mighty hunter. He slayed a giant, both with a sling he struck him down, and with a sword he cut off his head. He was very skilled with that sling. He knew the battle was the Lord's, but he was well armed. He was well regulated, meaning well trained. He trained. He was good with that sling. He went and gathered good stones for his sling. He didn't just have a weapon and not know how to use it. He was armed and well trained. It's said by the point he slayed Goliath, he had already slayed bears and lions. Now I've slain bear with a bow. I've never slain a lion with a sling or a bear with a sling, but I have to imagine that requires practice. I remember the amount of hours I spent practicing in archery so that I could take my first bear with a bow when I was, I want to say 16, but 15 through 17, somewhere in there, when I got my first bear with a bow. I know the amount of practice that it can take to be good with a bow. So I have to imagine the amount of practice that David had with his weapons to be good with them. Now again, the battle is the Lord's. The Lord was with David. The Lord was with David in battle. And that should say something too. But David still was armed, right? And he knew how to use his weapon. He was well armed, well regulated, meaning well trained. And if you remember, he went up. Now, he eventually was in the army, obviously, and had his own army. But it was said he went up to meet the army. He went up to take, I believe, bread. Forgive me, I'm doing this out of memory. But he went to take bread to his brothers who were in the army, which tells me that he was not actually in the army. He was a citizen. He was a well-armed, well-regulated citizen. He was a man after God's own heart. And it is written in Exodus 15, now the Lord is many things, But the Lord is a man of war. Exodus 15. The Lord is a man of war. Now we must not be bloodthirsty. We must always temper this. It is also written, you shall not murder. Now there are many types of killing that are not murder. There is murder, there is manslaughter, there is justifiable use of deadly force, plainly laid out in the Bible. Much has to do with the intent of the heart. We must balance that and not use force unjustly or at the wrong time, for it is written, God will not justify the wicked. It is also written, if a man sheds blood, by man shall his blood be shed. It is also written, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. How does one love his neighbor? By using deadly force. Let me use an illustration that I've used before, and I've had people use it back at me. So it must ring with some truth. It must hopefully illustrate this point rather well. Now you heard my bio. I've been blessed by God with talents with a firearm. If I'm in a movie theater with my wife, let's say, and I'm sitting there well armed, well regulated, well disciplined with a firearm, and somebody comes in there, an active shooter, and just starts killing people, one every second, bam, dead person, bam, dead person. What is more loving for me to do in that situation? To sit there and do nothing? Maybe curl up in a ball and suck my thumb? Or would the most loving thing for me to do for my neighbor, my wife, the little kid, the old lady, the widow, the orphan, whoever is in that movie theater, and myself? Because you shall love your neighbor as yourself. That denotes that you love yourself. You cannot love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love yourself. Would the most loving thing for me to do be to get up and do a Mozambique drill? That's 2 to the chest and 1 to the head. And stop that evil man from doing evil things to save the lives of the people around me. I would submit that that, in that situation, is the most loving thing that I could do. The greatest of all the commandments. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment, and the second like it is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now we often will use the term self-protection or self-defense. I don't know that I like that. Defense of life, preservation of life, perhaps is a more fitting term than self-defense. Preservation of human life. Whose responsibility is that? Whose job is that? I would submit as a man, made in the image of God, whom says that human life is precious. I would submit it's our responsibility, men. Now, I plan on talking about much more in this episode. I plan on getting into constitutional law, common law, things like that. But maybe in a part 2. Many of you likely listening to this are already on board, but maybe this is one that you want to share. Again, I don't do this podcast to help me. I do it to help others. Feel free to share this. I consider anything that I put out belonging to God, not me. It is open source. You share it with whomever you like. We'll roll into the tactical tip of the day and then the tactical verse of the day. Tactical tip of the day: it's the time of year where in much of the country it is cold. It is in the 20s and 30s here in northern Idaho. Many of us like to use hand warmers from time to time, especially if we're going to be outside for long periods of time. Those hand warmers, how they work, they exchange iron into iron oxide, absorbing oxygen and producing rust at an accelerated rate, which changes temperature, which makes temperature rise. And that's why we use them as hand warmers. But a secondary effect of that is that it removes oxygen and moisture out of the air. So you can use these for many things other than that, especially if you have some that are still good, but you're done being outside and being cold for the day. One thing I just was blessed by God to be able to slay a beast and put it on the table to feed my family, and I don't apologize for that. Just had a successful spot and stalk deer hunt here on public land. It was raining. It rained that day. It was pretty kind of miserable outside, but a successful hunt, so a blessed day. I have one of those hand warmers. Well, the gun was wet, so when I went to put it back in the case, I threw one of those hand warmers inside the action of that gun. You can also use these for many other things. If you're, let's say, putting up buckets of beans and rice, you want to keep them dry, you can throw an oxygen absorber, one of these hand warmers, in there. You maybe have a camera. If you're not a gun person, you have like a hard case for a camera, maybe throw one of those in there. They don't get so hot as to damage any kind of electronics that I'm aware of. And keep it in there to make sure there's not excess moisture in the air that could be damaging to electronics. You've probably opened up a battery-powered thing that has been stored too long and the batteries are all corroded and nasty. Anyway, that's your tactical tip of the day. Your tactical verse of the day, even though there's been many already. The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I test the mind, even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. That is a humbling thought. God knows your heart. Whomever else you may fool in this world with your actions, with your words, God knows your heart. You can never hide anything from God. You can never run far enough to get away from God. God knows your thoughts, your intents. God knows your heart. With that, thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.